If you don't have enough inbound leads to keep you busy, there are other ways to source leads that are almost as good. One of these is watching for trigger events, and the other is leveraging common connections. Let's start with trigger events. What is a trigger event? A trigger event is anything that indicates that you could provide immediate value to someone. These might be things like press releases, news articles, or social media mentions or hashtags. You should be watching multiple communication channels for any mention of something you can help with. For example, if you work for a recruiting agency and a potential buyer publishes a job posting for a sales hire, that would be an indication that they might need your agency's help. The trigger events you should be watching for depend entirely on the solution you provide. But if you can identify a trigger event from a prospect that you know is a good fit for your offering, that's a great reason to reach out. When making connect calls that originate from trigger events, you should focus on the trigger event first and then explore whether the trigger event implies a goal or challenge you can help with. For example,
Hello?
Hi Mary, this is Dan from Tire Recruiting.
Okay.
I just read your new job posting on the account executive position.
Yes, you need to submit your resume to Bob in Recruiting. The email's on the job ad.
Actually, I was not calling about applying to the job. I was calling because we published a popular ebook amongst your peers on writing job ads that attract sales rock stars. Based on those best practices, I had a few suggestions on the ad.
Okay, what do you think?
provide suggestions. Transition into what changes led to the trigger event and what they're most worried about with the process. Help where you can, and transition to the explore phase when it's right. If you call and don't get the person on the phone, leave a voicemail referencing the trigger event and a helpful piece of content you'd like to share with them. Then send an email with the promised information. If they respond, provide help where you can, and transition to the explore phase. Another great way to source leads is by leveraging common connections. A common connection is any person you and your prospect both know. It might be a friend or colleague, or even a family member. Common connections are extremely effective during the connect phase because it elevates you from being a stranger to being an acquaintance. To use common connections, first define the categories of common connections. For example, one of your customers may refer a potential buyer. One of your fellow employees knows a potential buyer. An acquaintance outside of your organization knows a potential buyer. Your categories may be different, and that's okay. The important thing is to develop specific content for people in each category. Once you have that, start asking your connections to introduce you to your target prospect. If they aren't willing to make an introduction, ask them if you can use their name in your outreach. Either way, having a common connection will be invaluable during the connect phase. When you contact someone through a common connection, use the opening 30 seconds to mention the common connection and explain why they thought it was a good idea for you and your prospect to talk. Here's how that might sound.
Hello.
Hi Mary, this is Dan from Tire Recruiting.
What can I do for you?
Kevin Harris over at XYZ Partners suggested I reach out to you.
Oh, he did? Why?
I was speaking to him about some of the success we have with recruiting salespeople. He mentioned you were struggling in that area the last time you spoke and suggested I reach out.
Oh, okay. I remember that conversation.
How is recruiting salespeople progressing?
We're still struggling.
On what aspect are you struggling specifically?
And so on. If you can identify a need that you can help with, then you'll know it's time to transition to the explore phase of your inbound sales strategy. If you can't identify a need you can help with, don't push. Share any relevant content you might have and move on to another lead. If you get the person's voicemail, leave a message referencing your common connection and a helpful piece of content you'd like to share with them. Then send an email with the promised information. If they respond, provide help where you can, and transition to the explore phase when you've identified a need you can help with. To sum up, trigger events and common connections are both excellent tools for sourcing new leads. As you reach out to these leads, start the conversation with the event or connection that brought them to your attention, and then look for ways you can help. And once you're confident that you can help, you'll be ready to move on to the explore phase of your inbound sales strategy.